Hello, everybody. This is Dianne. Welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell, and hashtag where's Heath?
Well, we now know where Connie is.
And Virgil.
And I have issues about that we will definitely talk about.
Ooh.
Yes, I have issues. And you're going to have to talk me off the ledge because, once again, I am not enjoying this season.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not. I'm just not. I read the Eric Kane article and I was like, yep, Eric, I'm down with you. And then I read the Paul Tassi article and I was like, Paul, you're completely misguided.
I am down with Paul.
I know. I figured you would be. Okay, so we are podcasting Walking Dead 11-6 on the inside. Who rated last time? Was it me?
I feel like you did.
I think you're right. I think it's your turn. Besides,
I'm
watching the Kraken lose.
Every time we do this, I think of My Favorite Murder, because they do the exact same thing. And it's like, we just podcasted like less than a week ago. How could we have forgotten who did this first?
Because season 11 is a blur.
Everything's a blur.
Okay, I just want to let people know Seattle Kraken won their inaugural game last night, but they are losing against the Edmonton Oilers tonight.
So, is the game I don't know if they have a halftime. Do they have a halftime?
No, so there's 3 periods, and they're in their 3rd period.
Okay. So, no chance of a
it's
miracle
not looking good. Probably not.
Okay. So, my rating... This was my highest rated episode of this season.
Oh my God. It's because it was a horror movie.
It's because it was a horror movie, and it was a very specific horror movie that we will talk about.
Good, because I remember you telling me, and I couldn't remember which one you told me it was that you thought it was a nod to, so.
Okay. So I rated it a 4.75 severed fingers.
You are a much better human than I am.
Poor Daryl. Poor Frost.
I rated it 3.27 jump scares out of 5.
Okay, we're going to have to revise that rating after we're finished and I talk you down.
Nah, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
Oh.
I know, and I feel bad. Remember when I loved The Walking Dead so much?
I know.
I feel bad. But I'm a finisher. I'm finishing this season come hell or high water.
I'm not going to say you shouldn't feel bad.
Look, all I know is there's this googly-eyed guy named Brandon Tanev who plays for the Kraken, and he looks crazy. You guys are going to be getting a blow-by-blow hockey game. No, I'm kidding. So I have some numbers. There were 1.78 million views. You know, we're kind of staying in the same area, give or take. Give or take. I mean, it's pretty stable.
Yeah. That was a little down from last week, but...
It was a little down from last week. I'm not sure that it's the lowest. I would have to go back and look. But if it's the lowest, it's not horribly far from the one just above it. So the title, on the inside, so I felt like it referred to Daryl being on the inside with Pope's group. And then I felt like Connie and Virgil are literally stuck on the inside, like in the walls.
Yes. I had the exact same thought. And then, of course, the Maggie's group was stuck inside the house.
Oh, good one. Yeah, I missed that. I shouldn't have missed that, but I did. Good one. I didn't have anything else.
No. I thought that there could have actually been better names for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst name. At least there's some symbolism to it. But, oh my God, There's a player named Nurse. Okay.
Diane is obsessed with the players' names.
I just have to say this. So there's a player named Hyman. There's a player named Geeky. And now I have just discovered there is a player named Nurse. Not that any of you care about inaugural NHL seasons for Seattle's team, but it's cracking me up.
And did you ever think that you would?
Never. Oh my God, my life has changed. So our writer was Kevin Diebold, I'm not sure. He has 4 total writer credits. He has written 4 episodes of The Walking Dead, none of which made me go, oh, that's the episode he wrote. He wrote Kevin Probably Saves the World. He wrote Copper, which I think you have watched, haven't you?
I've watched a few episodes. It's about the kind of detective type guys that work in the Five Points borough of early New York.
Yes, I remember that description now. Okay. Yep. And then he also wrote Borgia. Borgia. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
That's on the list for me. Like, it's just a fascinating subject matter.
Yeah, Thomas Amara told me he was going to give me crap about re-binging Glee. I was like, nope, you don't get to.
You can't Glee shame me.
Right. There's no Glee shaming. Okay. So our director was once again Greg Nicotero, and I think you're going to tell us how this is true to his origins, how this particular episode. But before you do that, I just wanted to kind of reflect, oh my God, I was just looking back at all of the things that he's worked on, and these are just his makeup credits.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, so many things that have brought me joy over the years. The Watchmen, Preacher, the first Suicide Squad. Yes, I am one of those people who actually liked the first Suicide Squad. The Hateful Eight. The Divergent series, which I actually really liked, probably because I liked the books. Django Unchained.
Would it surprise you to learn that I actually read the books and liked them too?
Yes, it would, only because you read.
Exactly.
Breaking Bad, Fright Night.
Oh man, you were talking about like all of his like later work.
Yeah, and like old stuff. I mean, the Book of Eli, Drag Me to Hell, Inglourious Basterds, which is one of my favorite movies because I really like World War II movies.
Evil Dead 2, Phantasm 2, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Leatherface.
Do you remember The Hitcher?
Yes.
Yeah. Deadwood, Diana and Steve. Diana especially. The Chronicles of Narnia, Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe.
Doppelganger with Drew Barrymore.
I've never seen that, but it doesn't surprise me that you have.
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Pulp Fiction.
So much. So it made me happy to kind of special effects for Boogie Nights.
Boogie Nights, which we reviewed for one of the movie groups with Phil and friends.
Yes. It's just Army of Darkness, one of my favorite movies. Mm-hmm. It just made me happy to see all of the things that he had worked on, and those were just things that he's done makeup on. So
I don't think the man sleeps.
Probably not. I actually worked with a doctor who would say, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I would imagine Greg Nicotero says the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, just check out his early 90s credits, like, for one. 4 to 6 movies a year.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. Misery. He worked on Misery. Mm-hmm. That was a great movie.
Yep.
All right. So, I didn't really have anything to say about Greg Nicotero per se, but I just wanted to reflect on all of the things that he's done that have made me happy over the years.
Yeah.
Including The Walking Dead, because there really has been times in my life when The Walking Dead has been what I have lived for. It just isn't season 11.
Yeah. Yeah. The man's amazing. National treasure.
I have to ask you, I want to say that the movie you were telling me about was Within.
Nope.
No. Okay. So I am wrong. Are you going to talk about it now, or are you going to talk about it later?
I will talk about it now because it's actually not really in my good, bad, or ugly. So 1991 horror film with Ving Rhames, who
oh my gosh,
I'm kind of in love with. The People Under the Stairs. So 2 adults and a juvenile break into a house occupied by a brother and sister and their stolen children. There's a fight for their lives. So, this brother and sister couple who call each other mommy and daddy, and there's a gimp costume. That's all I'll say.
Oh my god. This is so inappropriate, but since this is now our podcast, I'm going to be inappropriate. So I've told you about my noisy neighbor who does really vulgar things on the back deck with her boyfriend.
At 3 a.m.
At 3 a.m. Someone today at work suggested to me that I throw a ball gag over the fence.
I will buy you that ball gag. If
I'm just saying it might be worth spending the money.
You have her address. You can, covertly ship her.
Oh my god. All right. Sorry. I totally derailed us. So the People Under the Stairs, brother sister gimp costume.
Couple. Yes. Mommy and daddy steal children, and when the children are bad, they lock them in the basement, and so they only have one child, a daughter, who is the good child, and she that poor girl has so much stress, and of course the brother, the dad, kind of is very squicky to her.
Ew.
And this is a Wes Craven film, so yeah.
And did Nicotero do effects for it, or?
Yes, he did special effects and makeup, special effects and makeup. And so these horrible people, they keep dozens of children in this basement. Well, one of them has actually escaped the basement and he lives within the walls, and they I swear to God, they are the exact same corridor hallways that we saw in this episode that are they have plaster and same hallways, same corridors. And the daughter, the girl, actually befriends this escaped child under the stairs, and of course all of them they're basically feral. I mean, they can't really speak because they don't. Nobody is teaching them anything. They're just literally locked in this basement and throw dog food every now and then. And so when the 2 guys and what happens to be their nephew, who is going to be the lookout, who's a similar age to the girl, get trapped in this house by mommy and daddy, basically chaos ensues, and of course there's a chase all around the house, but of course it happens within the walls and outside the walls, and people get locked into rooms, and so it's just the similarities were uncanny between the ferals in this episode, the corridors that were used, some of the jump scares. I mean, if you really liked this episode and you have never heard of The People Under the Stairs, go watch The People Under the Stairs, Prime Video, $3.99, and just count the similarities. And if you're a horror fan and have never heard of it, I highly recommend the movie. Of course, Wes Craven's amazing. Greg Nicotero's involved, and of course, Ving Rhames. So yeah, I have so many people have never heard of this movie, and I mean it's a Wes Craven movie. Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven.
Okay, so the question that I have for you is this Greg Nicotero's nod to that movie?
100%.
Okay.
I am shocked as hell that there was no mention of the similarities in The Talking Dead. I have not seen any articles online that make the connection, but I am telling you the similarities in some of the scenes straight out of the movie. I mean, I could probably post side-by-sides. Yeah. If I had good side-by-sides of The Walking Dead. Yeah. So that's why I love this episode. I love horror films. I love Wes Craven, and this Walking Dead was amazing to me. That's why I rated it so highly.
Maybe I didn't love it because, I mean, generally speaking, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, horror is not my genre.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
It's really not. I mean, there's definitely stuff that Nicotero's worked on that I've really appreciated. And it's been mostly horror, but it's definitely not my genre.
Well, and I mean, not always horror. The Hateful Eight, you know. I mean, I wouldn't even consider that a suspense film. You know, he does horror, suspense, action. You know, so it's not always horror, but you know me, I love my horror movies. Like, so many of my coworkers and girlfriends, they talk about chick flicks, and I'm just like, nope, dark beer and horror movies. Like, apparently I'm a dude at heart.
Man, I don't even know what my genre is anymore. I don't. Hockey.
Okay. That I will no longer belabor the people under the stairs connection that nobody else seems to be making. I have yet to listen to Aim for the Head, which I did mention it to Steve on their Facebook page, where I'm like, oh my God, back me up on this. Like, the people under the stairs.
You're probably like one of 3 people who's watched it.
Well, that makes me feel like maybe I should direct message Greg Nicotero and be like, am I crazy? I mean, I know I'm crazy, but am I crazy about this?
Hey, I think you should, and see if he responds to you. I double dog dare you.
I will tweet him.
Very good.
Yep, I will tweet him.
Tonight.
Okay. I will write that down because I am drinking a giant bottle of chocolate raspberry stout. So I will need to write that down.
Yeah.
Tweet Nicotero. All right.
All right. So our featured cast, because we're running kind of thin on featured cast because there aren't enough new cast members, Steve. We decided that we were going to talk about the guy who played Frost, who is the prisoner who was with... Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Not Norman Reedus.
No, Pope.
No,
Daryl.
The prisoner who was with Daryl, who Daryl knew from Alexandria, and Daryl was like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are.
Right.
And then we didn't have Greg, oh God, my brain is completely fried. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. Then we did not have Daryl in last episode. We had them again in this episode. I had issues with that. We'll talk about that. Anyway, Pope ended up killing Frost.
Yes. So, of course, because the character died, we try and if there's more than one, sorry. But if a character dies, we try and make them the featured cast member. And plus, this is the only really new cast member that we haven't done yet. So, Frost, a.k.a. Glenn Stanton.
Which, by the way, he cleans up very nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So he kind of started out life as a sports baller.
So just so we're clear about which sports ball, he played in a junior U.S. basketball team. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know if that means like just out of high school, beginning of college, or still in high school. But then he actually played a middle linebacker for Ohio Northern University. And I looked at him and I'm like, dude, you're not really big enough to be a linebacker. Because I'm learning about that sports ball too.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how big somebody needs to be a linebacker.
Linebackers are generally big.
Okay, they're not the dudes that like run.
Yeah, no, the scrawny little dudes who run are like, running backs, quarterbacks. Those are scrawny little dudes. Kickers are scrawny little dudes.
I don't know. So on his IMDb profile, there is a picture that is a promo for Skilled Hands, where he is in the lower half of a football uniform, nothing on the upper half. And he's like, it's tossing a football.
Okay, but it's like uber padded. I mean, the thing that you have to think about football uniforms is that they're uber padded.
That's what kind of makes me think that, like, I'm like, I guess I don't really know how football players are built because they're always wearing so much padding.
Yeah, I'm learning more about how football players are built by virtue of dating someone whose middle child is a football player. So,
he got his acting chops on stage, in theaters, the Goodman, Chicago Shakespeare Theater, House Theater, and Utah Shakespeare Festival.
And so I do want to point out, I think it's super cool that this guy is a Shakespearean actor. I mean, we don't know exactly what roles he had, but it's pretty cool that he acted in Shakespearean plays.
His lavender button-up and his vest and that dapper stare he's got, like, definitely reeks Shakespeare.
He reeks Shakespeare. And let me tell you, it's a thing to go from being a linebacker to reeking Shakespeare. Just saying.
Well-rounded. The guy is rounded.
So according to IMDb, he transitioned from stage to film and television prior to leaving Chicago, but then he moved to LA.
And he mostly worked on shorts and video shorts in the beginning of his career. I think kind of making his big TV debut in a TV series called Betrayal. And then a TV series called Sirens. That can't be the same Sirens that I'm thinking. Nope, it's a Chicago EMTs. Man is big on Chicago because his first IMDb credit in 2011 is a short called Chicago. So then he was on a show called Sirens about Chicago, basically emergency workers. And then he was on Chicago Fire, the TV series, which he had a kind of reoccurring role for 3 episodes. So the guy's definitely got Chicago down.
Well, and again, that's where he was from, so...
Did you see his Days of Our Lives credit?
Yes, that totally cracked me up. It's almost as good as a Law & Order credit. Maybe better.
And so for those of you who don't know or have forgotten, Diane and I were sort of raised on Days of Our Lives.
Oh my God. Marlena was possessed by the devil.
That was the most ridiculous story.
It was the most ridiculous plotline ever. Oh my God.
Oh, man. So he was in an episode of the TV series 911. I don't really recognize him from there, but that is a TV series that I watch. He had a recurring role on the TV series The Sun,
which was an AMC property with Pierce Brosnan.
Right. And he has basically just been sort of a season 11 regular for The Walking Dead, but
not anymore.
But fear not for his career. He has 2 things in post-production and 1 thing that is filming. He has 2 shorts. The first one is I Propose We Break Up.
I don't like that title. I don't like that.
Okay.
No.
How about this one? After a Love Story.
Maybe. We'll see how it pans out.
So he is also in filming for The Ancients. which looks like a movie.
Although it looks like he's doing voice work in it.
Yeah, but okay, so it looks like a CGI movie.
Okay.
Yeah, so not a cartoon, not a live action, but like it looks like there's real actors, but it's definitely computer generated.
Okay. Kind of like Alita Battle Angel or that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
He is absolutely beautiful on Instagram. He is. He has.
Oh no, I believe you. Like I said, he cleans up very nicely.
And he definitely leans left.
Don't hate on him. Don't follow him if you're gonna hate on him.
He is Glenn Stanton Drama on Instagram. So he is also on Twitter at Glenn Stanton Act. Also got some cool behind the scenes shots on his Twitter, and he is also on Facebook, of course, just Glenn Stanton.
So, you know how I said that I felt like I needed to revise my rating of Rendition?
Yeah. Are you?
After this little bit of exposure to Pope and the group, again, I was like, nope, still hate him.
You know, I think what's funny is I don't know if it is the kind of grizzled ex-military with the kind of cap that he wears. Like, I feel like I know him from somewhere. Like, I feel like he's been the bad guy or an anti-hero in another movie. Like,
wait a minute.
Just this very
Who are you talking about?
Feeling. About Pope.
Oh, he's been in multiple things where he's played the bad guy. Remember that was his claim to fame, is that he plays the bad guy.
Right. But just the look of his character Pope, it's, I don't know, there's something very familiar about it. So, yeah. It's very unsettling. Like, it's not a good thing he's familiar. It's very unsettling. Yeah. So, anyway, there's not a lot out there about Glenn Stanton. I will tell you,
I got on YouTube to see if there was anything about him on YouTube, and there's all these Glenn Stantons on YouTube, and none of them are this dude. In fact, a couple of them look like elderly preachers.
I was going to say, when I Googled Glenn Stanton, I actually had to Google Glenn Stanton actor. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, Frost was not long for this world, but man, he held up like a trooper. I did
like Angela Kang's commentary that he knew he was going to be tortured, and he just kind of leaned into it.
Yeah. The resolve that he had when Daryl was looking at him, and he's like, well, you just going to stand there looking at me? And a-hole. I won't swear. I'll try not to swear, even though it's our podcast.
I was going to say, it's our podcast. We can swear. We can swear all we want. Fucky fuck. Fucky fuck. So there.
Yeah. I did manage to.
I was just quoting Negan.
Change over the billing.
I was just quoting Negan. Ha!
Okay, fine. You just gonna stand there staring at me, asshole. So, yeah, Frost was kind of the hero of this episode for maybe not outing Daryl. We'll see.
I don't think he outed Daryl, although maybe he did, because the whole Pope putting his arm around the other dude and walking away at the end. Yeah.
Exactly. So we will talk about that.
I hate the Reapers. I hate Pope. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. Okay. All right. I got that out of my system briefly. I'm sure it's going to come back. Okay. Whisperer's Corner. So Whisperer's Corner was pretty boring. I do have some news about Sydney Park. You probably remember her from Oceanside.
Mm-hmm.
She got a role on a Showtime series called Coercion, which is about sex trafficking, and there is supposed to
Ooh.
be a premiere coming up. And
Interesting.
apparently, she plays someone who rebuilds her life after she gets out of sex trafficking situation.
Wow.
Yeah, so I hope for her that she has good success with this series.
Me too. That is a very difficult subject matter.
All right, next thing. We've already said we're not podcasting World Beyond, but I thought I would share this. The World Beyond explores Jadis's journey over the past 6 years in this season. And I will tell you that Pollyanna McIntosh has an even worse haircut than the haircut that she had in Walking Dead.
You know, bless her for committing to the character.
That's true.
Yeah, that haircut in the promos is just like, I didn't think it could be worse.
I think her best look was that movie that you had me watch that had like the ravens in it. I don't even remember what it was called.
Oh yeah, I don't remember what it was called, but it was another horror movie. But
yeah.
No, like when she's on Talking Dead, she is absolutely stunning. So,
yes, she is. She's a lovely woman. You're right, she absolutely commits to her role, whatever that role requires.
And off season, she can totally style those haircuts into something that works for her. So yeah. Not any criticism for Pollyanna McIntosh. Kudos to her for leaning in.
And then I've already kind of talked about it, but Eric Kane calls this episode House of Horrors, and I didn't agree with him completely. So he said that he finally kind of feels like this season has found its feet. This is the scariest episode that they've had in a long time. It was a really solid episode. Here's the place where I really agreed with him. He felt like they should have just focused on Connie and Virgil. That we shouldn't have split time with Pope and Daryl and that whole storyline.
I absolutely agree with that.
I completely do too, because I feel like it would have been a much stronger episode. It potentially would have been scarier and more suspenseful had we not split a whole bunch of time, including the time of, oh, Kelly has stolen a horse and gone to look for Connie. Whatever shall we do? No, it would have been just fine if they had Kelly like show up at the end.
Yeah, even in the beginning when Carol was talking about like, no, I should go off on my own. We should split up. It'll save time. And I was just like, what's the point of that scene?
It's Carol being Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you love Paul Tassi because he said Walking Dead went off the rails in a fun, terrifying way this week. They're leaning into having fun. This was a stellar episode on every level.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I do
kind of
disagree
figured you'd appreciate that.
I do disagree with. He said that they should have dropped the Commonwealth as a storyline for this season, in order to focus on more crazy stuff that's off book, like this episode.
Then they would have had to have had a season 12. Because the Commonwealth is huge. I mean, it's a huge part of the story. It's the finale of the story. It's the way that the whole Walking Dead wraps up.
Right, but I mean,
have you read it?
Yes, but we don't have Carl, so this is not the Walking Dead of the books anymore. I don't think so.
The Commonwealth is critically important, whether it's the Walking Dead of the books or not. And they're doing plenty of things to kind of pull it back around. The Yumiko, whatever, Tommy storyline. That's the Michonne daughter storyline. The Stephanie Eugene storyline is true. I mean, it's part of, if I remember right, it's part of the books.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean...
So, Paul Tassi did point out that he said, I guess we are seeing like a dichotomy of humanity in a single season. Feral humans outside the walls and a perfectly functional civilization living like nothing happened inside. So that's kind of cool. I mean, you know, the word for this podcast has sort of always been juxtaposition. So
thank you, Kirk.
Yeah.
I don't think Kirk listens anymore, but I have to give a shout out to Kirk. So I really wanted to buy one of his custom pictures for my guy. And I messaged him several weeks ago and didn't hear back, and finally heard back from him yesterday. And he was like, I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get back to you, but I have what you want. And I was like, yay, because I want to give it to him for Christmas. So yeah, so thank you, Kirk. Shout out to Kirk. He is still doing some really cool custom art. He's doing Walking Dead tributes again. The thing that I got was a Loki tribute that actually is also pro-vaccine. He's been doing some really, really neat pro-vaccine posters using various superheroes to promote getting COVID vaccines.
Yes, I absolutely love it.
And I will not entertain any bullshit about COVID vaccines, so don't even at me. Don't dare. Don't do it. I will dirty delete. So, I'm in a place in my life where I will dirty delete, and I will do it.
So Kirk did some TWD tribute art last weekend, and he had a little piece on Squawking Dead talking about his tribute art. So if you don't follow him on Twitter, his art is amazing at Batman KM.
Oh, I do want to say, by the way, that one of the ones that I really liked of his recent Walking Dead tributes, he captured Mercer really well.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I really like Kirk's art anyway. I've got 2 of his pieces framed and going up my stairwell along with a Walking Dead poster. I would love to have more of Kirk's art. I just am spending so much freaking money getting art framed right now that I can't afford it. I
really hope that JDM has his art for the Here's Negan episode, because he did an amazing job.
Cool.
He's Very just cool. So talented.
Yeah, actually, I think Hillary Burton retweeted it and talked about how much she liked it, if I remember right. I think I saw that. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's move forward. What's your good? Because I know you've got a lot of good.
Yeah, you know what? I actually had a hard time finding a bad, so we will get to that. But my good is the Connie Kelly reunion.
Okay, did you see the news about the Connie Kelly reunion?
So it was actually talked about on The Talking Dead.
Okay, it'll be interesting to see if it's the same little snippet of news. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I can't remember if it was Lauren Ridloff or Angel Theory who, I think it was Lauren Ridloff who was like, I don't want to see my sister.
Yes, please keep us apart. Yes, it was Lauren Ridloff. Yeah.
And so that reunion of them coming together was legitimate. That was when they first saw it. I mean, you know, we've been everyone has been through so much in the past year and a half with COVID and being apart from their loved ones and everything. And so for those two to have that scene and for it to be real, it just, I mean, made it all the more emotional. Before I even knew that scene was a legit reunion, you felt it. I mean, you felt it. Like, they didn't rush into each other's arms. They just sort of stood there and looked at each other, you know, and were just like captured in the moment. And it was so emotional. So I absolutely love that scene, and I love that it was real. So that was my good. Did you have a good?
I did have a good, and it was a small good, and you'll appreciate it, because I really did like the jump scare when Connie sees that eye in the medicine cabinet. It was legit scary, and it's been a long time since I've had a jump scare watching The Walking Dead, and it was a jump scare.
So in that scene, the only thing that I didn't actually jump because the thing that I was actually focused on is the razor blade slot. Have you ever seen one of those?
No, such a thing actually exist?
Yes, it does. This was a thing in old houses that in the medicine cabinet, you had a little slot that you just dropped your used razor blades from your reloadable razor into a slot, and it just disappeared into the walls, never to be thought again. And so I am a fan of HGTV shows that deal with old houses, which there's one on right now called Cheap Old Houses, and it's great. But people will open up these walls in their bathrooms to find just like 2-foot piles of razor blades from the early century, you know?
That's gross.
Right? It was just like, what were they thinking? That it was just like, it just disappeared into a void, never to be seen. No, like, it's still there. And when Connie actually found that where the person had looked, when she was in the walls and she looked through that slot herself, all I could think was, wait, no, she has to be standing on like a foot of razor blades. And I'm like, the ferals probably did clean them up before they went feral so that they could like run through those little corridors themselves. So, okay, fine, I get it. But yeah, that's all I could focus on in the jump. So like everyone kept talking about this jump scare scene. I'm seeing all these articles and tweets about this jump scare scene. I'm like, what jump scare scene? No, I was focused on the architectural details of the house.
I think it's ridiculous that you, the horror aficionado, missed the jump scare.
It takes a lot for me to actually jump in a horror movie. I'm a cynic, so I think I'm constantly waiting for the jump scare. So when it actually happens, I'm like, that was it. I build it up too much in my own head. I'll tell you this, and this is kind of an erotic potpourri, but I will tell you the scene that it wasn't a jump scare, but I had a little squick out moment, was the fingernail scene.
Oh, like when they were pulling out Frost fingernails?
Yeah, like that.
Okay, I will tell you something. So every now and then, and it's been a long time since I've done it because it's not my favorite thing to do, not fingernails, but I end up pulling off a toenail, like if somebody's got an ingrown toenail. I actually had a patient a few years ago say, I don't want you to give me any anesthesia, I just want you to do it. And I was like, no, that's not a thing. Because let me tell you, in third world countries, they pull people's fingernails and toenails out to torture them. And I ethically refuse to do that to you. I will not do it. So If you want it done without anesthesia, you can talk to somebody else. If you're willing to consent to anesthesia, I'll do it.
So I see both sides of this issue as as somebody who has had to go to a podiatrist and have their toenails worked on. Because I do, and it's hereditary apparently. The whole ingrown toenails on your big toe thing is a hereditary thing. I was like, my feet aren't that wide. I don't wear tight shoes. What's going on? I hate wearing shoes I love shoes, but I hate wearing them. But so I have actually, and apparently one of my toes is very, very difficult to numb. And after 11 shots into my toe to numb it and still being able to feel about 25%, I was just like, just do it. Like, no more shots. Just do it. Like,
can I just tell you that the person who was numbing your foot should have done a digital block and everything would have been fine.
Huh.
Yeah.
I may ask for that
Because
next time.
Knock on wood, I have never had a digital block not take. Knock on wood.
So I do need corrective surgery to fix the problem for good, or it just keeps happening. And so, maybe that now that I know that that's a thing, like, you know, when I go to have them fixed for good, because you can't have them fixed while they are infected. which is totally TMI and gross, but here we are. Nursing advice from Nurse Dianne. I love it. All right. Back to our goods, bads, and uglies.
All right. Is it my... No, nope, it's your bad.
It is my bad. And like I said, I had a hard time finding a bad. And so my bad was actually the very end of the episode, which we've kind of talked about already, when Frost had wound up talking to Pope, apparently, about something. And Pope gives this kind of funny look to Daryl, and then he puts his arm around the other Reaper, and it's sort of left at that, and we're not sure. I mean, honestly, I think it's a fake out, and that's kind of why it's my bad, is I think it's a fake out, and I'm kind of over fake outs. So because I kind of think that if Frost had given up Daryl, I think that Pope would have dealt with it immediately. I mean, we've seen him like just push a guy into a fire and put his boot on his face, you know, like
Fair enough.
I honestly think that like Pope would have immediately like gut shotted him and then dragged him into the torture chamber for the, 20 minutes that Daryl had left to live. So I think it's a fake out, which that is why it's actually my bad. So yeah. What was your bad?
So, I actually wrote this down and had this in my brain before Eric Kane said it. I am going back to it. We did not need the Pope storyline. We only needed the Connie Virgil storyline. I actually miss bottle episodes. I really feel like this season they have spent too much time trying to cover 2, 3, 4 storylines in one episode, and it's like, guys, no. You tell a better story when you tell a more concentrated story.
I actually 100% agree with that. I don't think that we needed to. I felt like it killed the suspense of this episode, and I don't think this was the scariest episode. I actually think last season's Stalker was a scarier episode, but of course I loved this
Stalker
episode.
And Ghosts. I mean, they were great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ghosts. But I mean, the people under the stairs. Come on. But no, I 100% agree. Between the little bits of Daryl Reaper storyline that we've had trickle in, they could have absolutely done bottle episodes this season, and it would have been great.
Yeah, I feel like they're spreading their energy too thin, and it's not good.
That's a very good way of putting it. Spreading your energy thin. Yeah. And I will tell you, as a naughty girl who watched ahead because I have AMC Plus, again, I will warn you that next week we split the episode, and again, it's with Daryl and the Reapers and the Commonwealth. So, like, we could have had a Daryl Reapers bottle episode and a Connie Virgil bottle episode and a Commonwealth bottle episode, and I mean even an Alexandria Hilltop bottle episode. Like, we could have had bottle episodes where you see the bleed over at the end, where, like, the Connie Kelly reunion. We could have actually kind of seen that from both sides in the bottle episodes, or at least the moments leading up to that reunion in the bottle episodes. So yeah, it was not my bad, but I 100% agree that bottle episodes should have been a thing. Bottle episodes.
Did you hear us? Bottle episodes.
All right, so my ugly. I loved Connie saving Virgil. So there was.
Did she save him? Because I thought he was pretty badly wounded. Did I overshoot? Did I assume that his wounds were worse than they actually are?
Okay, so don't get me wrong. I kind of think he's gonna be like, what's his name? Who's stuck in a church with a gut wound?
Alden.
Alden. I think he's kind of like Alden, where it's like, yeah, in the real world, if you were stabbed like that 3 times, because Virgil was stabbed in the upper right back. So, you're the nurse. I'm bad at anatomy.
Upper right back. Lung.
Yeah, lung. But that would have been
and he was stabbed more than once, right?
Yeah, it was like 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, and so was it all upper right back, or was there potential for it to be lower? Because depending on how low it was, you could have kidney.
I feel like mid back was about as low as it went.
Mid back is kidney.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
So no, and that's exactly. I feel like. So in the real world, these people would, I mean, if they didn't immediately bleed out.
But we will have to point out that Daryl did survive a femoral stick. So, just saying.
Daryl, you know? Yeah. So in the real world, if these people didn't immediately bleed out or have a punctured lung or something like that, they would die of infection in, a week? 2, depending on the injury.
You know, my snarky comment about Uma Thurman getting epinephrine in the heart in Pulp Fiction was, well, now she's going to be dead of sepsis in a week. So there you go.
I mean, seriously, it is 2021 and people in the Western world still die of cavities. So I'm just saying 3 stab wounds to the upper back or a couple of stab wounds or whatever to the gut. Yeah, no. Like it's 10 years in. There's no more antibiotics. And, you know, white oak bark is not going to fix that.
White willow bark, you mean?
White willow bark. Thank you. So anyway, Connie saving, Virgil the way that she did. So this episode we saw Connie so terrified, and we actually even got to experience it as her, where we had the silence. And God, I love me a silent episode. One of my favorite episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer had no dialogue and no music. It was called Hush. And it was just one of the most chilling episodes. And out of the 5 senses, hearing would be the one that I least would want to give up or lose, because I love music so much. So hearing is a big thing for me. The other half is
that would be so hard. I don't want to have to make that choice.
The other half is a reader, so he's like, I couldn't lose my sight. Like, you know, I would have to do everything, either audiobooks or like, you know, I don't see very many Braille books. I guess maybe you can get them printed from a certain company, or I don't know. But like, he's like, I wouldn't want to lose my sight. So for me, it's hearing. And so to have her I want to say see through her eyes, but actually sort of listen from her perspective, that was just terrifying. So we saw her terrified this entire episode. So obviously this is a good ugly. And then at the end, for her to have enough presence of mind when these feral cannibals are closing in on them and there's walkers on the other side of that door. Virgil is injured, so she can't turn to him, to have the presence of mind to dig into that dead walker and cover herself, and then open the door at just the right moment and then cover Virgil. And just the way that she just sort of shut her eyes and was like, you know, this is my last stand. This is all I got left in me. One of three things is going to happen. Either one of the feral cannibals is going to get me, one of the zombies is going to get me, or we're going to survive. And I'm going to do everything that it takes for us to both get out of here together. And it just made that scene where she took Virgil's hand and her hand and signed the word together with both of their hands. And it was just like, it really should have been my good, but God, that reunion scene was amazing. So I absolutely loved, and there was a whole theme of people saving other people in this episode. I mean, Daryl thought he was saving Frost, and then he did wind up saving Maggie's group, and Michonne had saved Virgil so that Virgil could save Connie, and then Connie could save Virgil. And then right at the end, Angel Theory, Kelly comes in and saves the day. So, like, I can't believe I have not talked you up on this episode yet.
No, you haven't.
So, like, but I kind of think it's cool that we are diametrically opposed, that I am so enthusiastic about this episode. And there's people out there like Eric Kane who agree with you.
You are so enthusiastic about this season.
I am loving this season. Like I said, I feel like it's season 1. And that's, for me, that's a very good feeling. And I know you're like,
it is so not.
Nothing will ever stand up to season 1. But yeah.
I have to say that probably... I'm going to say Princess is probably my favorite part of the season. And I'm going to say that the devastating interplay between Maggie and Negan is probably my second favorite part of the season.
Both good storylines. So what was your ugly?
Okay, my ugly. Seriously, it was that easy for them to find Connie after all this time? Really? Are you kidding me? I mean, it just kind of feels like she was circling in this little nexus around Alexandria. And they could have found her a lot more easily than they did. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I have to agree with that. I kind of have a tendency
dumb.
I have a tendency to overlook that kind of stuff, but there were a few things that they sort of focused in on this episode that I didn't understand, and they could be sort of leading to the whole explanation of why, like, our group of Alexandrians and apparently Connie and Virgil were sort of like circling each other and not finding each other. Is like early they focused on that map that Connie had. And I paused it and I was like, okay, what is the significance of this map? And it was like, obviously, it looked like it was Virgil's handwriting from what we saw of Virgil's handwriting. And I like, there had to be some significance of this map. And I'm just like, okay, Connie wasn't that far away because the cat cave wasn't that far away. I mean, it was within like, what, a day or two walk, and Connie's been gone for months, I guess.
Like a year.
And their camp was within like a 2-hour hike, so I'm like, okay, like, and this coming from a woman who drove 2 hours north when she meant to be driving to Oregon from Washington, and saw a sign that said, Canadian border, next exit. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
I get it.
I can't believe you just admitted that.
I am horrible at directions. Don't tell me north-south. Tell me to take a left at the Jack in the Box. Like, no. Like, I'm terrible. Thank God for GPS. Like, when this happened, this was when I was still using the old, and I forget the name of the certain map book, but it was like a spiral bound map book. And I think MapQuest printing out directions from MapQuest was just starting to be a thing. So horrible at directions. I get it. Like you're going down a dirt road and all these trees look the same. So Connie could have absolutely easily been lost. But I'm also kind of the one where it's like, okay, like when people here in Juneau get lost on the mountains, go down. Just start hiking down. And I also know to follow water. Water eventually like leads to civilization, apparently. You follow rivers south.
Okay.
I know. I'm like, no, then you just end up on a beach, which I mean isn't a bad thing, but it's not exactly civilization, so okay. But yeah, so I kind of forgive them of that, but you are totally right in saying that like it's like, okay, we know Connie was alive the last time these whisperers saw him, so let's take 2 hours and just look real hard. Look, there she is.
Yeah. Yeah, I just really felt like it was like, okay, we've spent all this time looking for Connie and she was right there.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep. Exactly.
So
I
all
think
right.
that takes us straight into rotting potpourri.
If
we weren't already there with talking about Marnell getting lost, going south, and having bad toenails.
And needing a digital block.
Yes.
Okay, I have to tell you, like, my first thing in Rotting Potpourri is I was like, who is Pope torturing? Is that the guy from Rendition? I mean, how sad is that? And then I was like, okay, Daryl doesn't look nearly as tough as the other guy. Oh, never mind, he cut off a finger.
Yeah, so that was actually going to be my bad is Pope's kind of a savvy guy. I could totally see him seeing through Daryl's like, no, I'm not going to pull fingernails off. Like putting him in a chokehold is like way more better at torture. No, it's not. No.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
You choke me out, that means I get a nap. Like, don't pull my fingernails off. I will tell you anything. Yeah, no. So I feel like Pope would have actually absolutely seen through that act. And then it was like, okay, severed finger. That sort of ups the ante. And like I said, Frost was an absolute hero this episode for taking that and still having the presence of mind to after all this torture and understanding Daryl when he's like, just tell us where she is, give us a location or what, and conveying the message of, and because I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, tell them the house next door to the house you're supposed to meet them at, because they go next door. The bad guys go next door. Our good guys see the bad guys go next door, and they're like, we need to GTFO. So, yeah, props to Frost, and yeah.
So, all this time when they've been talking about the woman, I thought they were talking about Carol. I didn't realize they were talking about Maggie.
Oh no, because Daryl said it in the episode that he told Frost. He was like, "You don't know me, man." Like the information that he gave Leah and Pope was, okay, there's a woman, she's their leader. Yeah. And what's funny is, back to people under the stairs, there is actually no names for the brother-sister couple. They're credited as man and woman. So it's funny that they keep calling Maggie woman, and the whole connection to, and maybe I can just connect anything, I don't know, but like, I feel like there is that connection. Greg Nicotero, I'm gonna tweet you later.
I will say I agreed with Angela Kang that the pictures with the eyes defaced were pretty creepy, although she was like, maybe it was even some of the people who were the feral people, and I was like, no, it wasn't. They were all antique pictures.
Yeah. No, those are pictures from like the 40s. Try again.
Yeah. I was totally like, okay, Angela, you're smarter than that. I know you're smarter than that.
Yeah, even that's a reach for me. I 100% agree with Connie. I'm not staying in that house. Virgil's like, no, we'll check the house again. And Connie's like, no, I'm not staying here. And I'm like, yeah, dude, if I saw that jaundiced eye peeking out me from the razor blade slot, no. I like, okay, sure, it may be a delusion, but I'm not going to get any rest here. I'm not going to feel safe enough to fall asleep. So what's the point of staying? Let's just get out.
So I get that Maggie told her horror story about, the women being impregnated and having their eyes gouged out and their voice boxes ripped out and all of that. And I get that that was a reference to an X-Files episode that I really loved, perversely. And, but do you really think that people would get this feral? I mean, to like not even walk upright?
Nope. So if they had made them creepy little 10-year-old children that had been sort of raised by wolf spiders, I don't know. Sure. But these people were like in their late 20s, early 30s. So like 17 to late 20s when the apocalypse happened. Like, I don't think you can regress that badly unless you were already sort of on that cusp. Like, if you had made this like stereotypically like a mental institution or something, like I could have seen that. But just like people like you and me and our nieces and nephew, like normal people regressing to the point that like they're skittering around on all floors and like picking the bones of humans for food. Like, nope.
The whole thing was weird.
I loved this episode because of its fantastical horror properties, but I also am like, no, I don't believe that regular people would go that feral without already having been halfway there 10 years ago.
I also thought it was super coincidental that our heroes just happened to be in the house that the Reapers went to with Daryl. I mean, did Daryl know they were in that house? Did he know that that was the house where they were meeting? Was it a coincidence? I didn't get a strong feeling that Daryl totally knew that that was the house.
So I do have the feeling, because everyone seemed to know what house was the rendezvous point, because Gabe and the other person with Gabe, I can't remember.
Was it Elijah?
Got there. I cannot remember for the life of me right now.
So Elijah is the one who was in a mask when we first met him.
That's right, it was, because because he was upset when Maggie was telling him who didn't survive the melee. That's right. So they knew where and maybe Elijah, because he was from the settlement, so maybe he knew where that house of cached goods was. But everyone kind of seemed to know that it was like 40 paces from the radio tower or whatever, The greenhouse on that is next to the radio tower, something like that. So and the way that Daryl kind of looked at the greenhouse and then shook those power lines, I was like, he knows, like that was the rendezvous point if we all get separated. So.
You still haven't talked me off the ledge. I know you're terribly surprised.
That sucks because I'm almost done talking.
I know. So I got to tell you, I was totally getting a Morgan vibe from Virgil. And then when he was like, I lost myself for a long time, I was like, oh my God, Morgan.
So two things about the very, very beginning of the episode that I did not get on the first watch. So I have been complaining lately that I am on snake, spider, and scorpion TikTok somehow. And I don't know if it's because it's spooky bitch season, but...
Well, you were also on Goth Girl TikTok, so there we are. Which, by the way, I did share that. It was quite funny.
I'm permanently on Goth Girl TikTok.
Well, you need to share Goth Girl TikTok with me because there are tremendous jokes to be had about goth girls. So... I'm not saying goth girls are bad in case anyone's offended. No. We like goth girls.
Yes, you are talking to some pseudo baby goth girls at the very least. Yeah, I shopped at Hot Topic, whatever. At the very, very beginning of the episode, we see Virgil and Connie running through that dang spider web, and I'm like, why? Why is it always got to be spiders? Like, I feel like Indiana Jones is like, why is it always got to be snakes? I'm like, anything with more than 4 legs does not belong within like a 2-mile radius of me, unless it's a butterfly or a ladybug. Then that's fine, or a woolly bear, which is a caterpillar. So spiders, like, it's my kryptonite. Like, spiders. So
spiders.
I just thought it was super interesting. And again, I can make a connection between anything. Daryl running, or not Daryl. God, I keep saying Virgil's Daryl.
That's okay. I couldn't get anybody's name right earlier tonight, so.
Well, I'm almost done with my beer, so that's my excuse. So Virgil running through the spider web. So of course, what happens when the fly runs into the web, he gets trapped. And that's exactly what happened to them, is they were trapped. And of course, these feral cannibal things were like skittering around on the floor like spiders. And so I feel like there was that representation, that foreshadowing in the very, very beginning of the episode where it's like, the spider and the flies, So I just thought that was super interesting. And then when Kenny, here, it's the beer. I'm about to take sleeping pills too, so we got to wind this down. So when Connie was looking out the windows and she was having all of those flashbacks to, and I think they were walkers. I don't think that they were whisperers, but she had been walking with the horde for days and not sleeping and not eating and drinking very little. So she was staring out the window. And I also feel like she doesn't know that the whisperers are gone. They're disbanded. They were defeated.
Although we see a whisperer's mask in the ad for the next episode that you just watched.
So she doesn't know that those zombies out there she thinks that they could be whisperers still, like, and that's like an added layer of horror for her, as if there wasn't already enough. So God, Lauren Ridloff just did such a good job this episode. She conveyed so much terror that it was just like, I don't know. I felt it.
I'm so glad you did. She did do a lovely job. I mean, there were definitely some moments that were truly scary with her.
Yeah. So that's the gist of my notes. I have a few other things, but it's not a whole lot worth mentioning after everything that I have belabored this episode.
I will say that I did like the way that she killed the ferals, that she, covered herself with guts and then opened the door. I thought that was pretty cool. And so I'm just sorry that we're going to see Pope again.
So yeah, and that's why it was my good ugly is at the beginning of the episode, we almost lost Virgil to that walker that fell in on him while Connie shut the door and kept the others out. And so had that walker not come in with them and Virgil, got to kill that walker, Connie would have had nothing there. And so she wouldn't have been able to cover herself in guts. She would have just had to open the door and hope that like the zombies would be more interested in the ferals, So I just, the whole, like, it was a perfect storm. And I mean that in a good way. So yeah, if I have not talked you up on this episode with everything that I have talked about, what's left in my notes isn't going to do it.
Nope. I'm afraid what's left of your notes isn't going to do it.
Okay. Well, other than the next episode also being split stories and not a bottle episode, I do have to say that I actually liked the next episode better.
Oh, no. Which means I'm going to like it less.
Right? Oh, this is
help me out, biters, help me. I need to learn to love The Walking Dead again. I'm really struggling. They have got to do something.
It's fun when we agree, but it's also really, really fun that we have this yin-yang thing going. So,
but I've got to tell you, and this is a horrible thing to admit on pod, but I'm going to, it's a chore. It's a chore. Well, and it never used to be a chore.
There could be listeners out there who probably feel the same way, and they're like, you know what? It's season 11. I'm just going to power through it. And they listen to us, and they get both sides. So
either that or they're like, I'm not listening to any podcasts. I can barely stand watching the TV show.
Well, we do have at least one fan who does not watch the show, but still listens to the episode because they like us so much. And that's amazing.
That's true.
Which is why we did take over our Libsyn feed, and we are an independent podcast at this point. It is a labor of love. We do not get paid. Which is why
I dropped the F-bomb more than once. Because I can.
I know. I said the A word and the B word. So.
I love you, Rob Southgate. I do, but I am definitely a sweary girl.
Yep, we both are.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners actually asked that we try and give a heads up on what we are going to podcast for Housewives.
Oh, gosh.
So we are actually going to podcast a documentary called Sticky. It is a documentary about masturbation. So,
yes, and that was a juvenile laugh. That was a totally juvenile laugh.
I have actually not watched the show yet, and so
neither have I.
I don't know how we are going to get through that podcast without either oversharing or just dissolving into juvenile giggles. So
I don't think I'm going to overshare, but I do have a theory about juvenile women and juvenile men and masturbation. I do.
Well, I will have to curb my alcohol intake to not overshare.
Yes, so. You probably should. You should probably do that one sober.
Yeah, I'll teetotal that night.
All right. Well, I think now that we've run the gamut of swearing and talking about masturbation on biters
and toes and GPS and
driving 2 hours in the wrong direction, Marnell.
That's GPS. This is the independent Housewives. So here we are in all our glory.
Yes, well, I wouldn't say all of our glory, but we're getting there. We're starting out.
We're getting there. Yeah.
We're gradually inculcating you.
Yeah. So I think that's got to be the end of it. Hashtag where's Heath?
I think that's it.
All right, everybody. We got a hold of our Libsyn feed, so hopefully, we can get this posted out and we are not behind on our podcasting. So until next week, just remember,
take it one dead damn. day at a time.
Oh, that was perfectly imperfect.
It was terrible. All right, everybody. Have a good week. Bye.